Welcome back to another episode of the Blacklist Podcast. Today we have the pleasure of introducing Rich Johnston. With over 7 years of dedicated service, Rich is a certified intervention professional and a certified peer recovery specialist, deeply committed to making a difference. Alongside his wife, he co-owns Rosecrest Recovery Services, offering vital interventions and support for addicts and their families. Rich also lends his insights and experiences through the RoseCast Podcast, aiming to shed light on the path to recovery. His mission is clear: to assist others in achieving their best life. Join us as we delve into Rich's journey, the impact of Rosecrest Recovery Services, and his empowering message to hope and healing. This episode, along with a host of other inspiring stories, can be found at theblacklistpodcast.com. Without further delay, Rich Johnston. Johnston with a T.
That's what I always have to tell everybody.
What's going on, man?
Dude, not a lot. Grateful to be here. Glad you asked me to come on. Glad Chuck introduced us, and yeah.
I'm excited. You know, we did that first episode with Black Ash, and we kind of just was able to link up from there. So I'm excited. You know, another person in the States, because a lot of people recently, man, it's been from Canada. It's crazy, like. You know,
dude, the invasion of the Canadians. What's going on here?
It's been insane, man. I'm just like, wow. Like, I look at the Canadian numbers, and it's almost more than the United States numbers.
I didn't even know they had dope in Canada.
You know what? That's the funny thing for me. I said the same thing. I was like, damn, they do drugs in Canada.
Everybody seems so nice.
Like
what do you get high about?
I had on Chantel the other night from Trap House Testimonies, and she's of course in Canada. She was telling me like, oh, it's crazy gang life and stuff that she was doing. I'm like, damn, they got gangs in Canada? Like, really?
Dude, that's I grew up in Baltimore, and my wife, when we moved down to Florida, was trying to tell me how, you know, just how gang ridden South Florida was, and you know, XYZ, and I'm just like, dude, you're not, like, we're going off of two way different spectrums here. But then I got down here, and they have like, they do pretty serious gangs down here. I actually came down here one time before I moved down here to a family had hired me to pull their son, who's, you know, was a grown adult, but he was hanging around with these Haitian gangbangers. This is the general area where he is. He might be at this hotel. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is go down there, get him, bring him to treatment in Tennessee. And me being just somebody who is a glutton for punishment, I was like, yeah, sure. What could possibly go wrong? So I came down here and finally tracked this kid down. And he's like in the car with these Haitian dudes, and they are serious guys. Like they were every bit as serious as any East Baltimore gangbanger that I had ever met. And they had, you know, there's like guns in the car and all this stuff. And finally, like, they let this guy get out. But that's when I realized that she was telling me the truth, that it can get hairy here.
You know, I love Florida. I've been there multiple times for work. I absolutely love it. But the one thing I've always wondered is, why is there so many treatment centers in Florida? Because if you think about it, like, everybody goes to Florida to get sober. Or why? Do you know, like, as to why?
Yeah, man. That's everything we were talking about before we started recording. That's marketing, baby. That's okay. You know, and it's changed some. You know, it's still the capital for treatment, but it's just such an easy sell. So like if you know, like right now it's December in Buffalo, and it's really or let me not say really, but it's a lot easier for like if I'm working with a family and I come in and say, hey man, here, look at this, white sand beaches and palm trees. You can be there by 7 p.m. with a personal nutritionist hanging out in the jacuzzi. Or, you know, you can go and hope an icicle doesn't fall through your eye socket while you're going to cop dope tonight. Those, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's, I think that it's, it was some clever marketing, and then it caught on, and then it snowballed and got out of
Yeah.
control for a little while. It's been reined back in some though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, you think about it because like it was snowing today here. So and then you said what was the temp today?
The high, I don't know. When I was driving back home from dinner at about 7 p.m., it was 66.
Okay, but still it's way better than like 20 something degrees in
Yeah,
the snow.
no, dude, I could do shorts and a tank top or jeans and a hoodie. It's that kind of weather.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell Brianna all the time, I'm like, yo, let's move to Florida.
Full of New
Like,
Yorkers, bro. It's full of
I
literally
love Florida.
it. Like where I live, where I live is Loxahatchee. It's the middle of nowhere. But like West Palm Beach as a whole, let's just say Palm Beach County it's just tropical New
Yeah.
Jersey. Is all it is. It's just
Mhm.
it's New Jersey people, and
Right.
they live near palm trees. That's the only thing. They still do all of the New Jersey stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But the other crazy thing though is that the amount of people that obviously go there for treatment, but the amount of people like the not the success rate, but how many the relapse rate and whatnot. Like think about it. So I had the opportunity, that show Dope Sick Nation. All right, so I had the opportunity to talk to Frankie from there when when they were doing the TV show and whatnot, and and then he did that one episode that
Wait,
was
is that
like
the one
I
about the
relapsed.
Sacklers?
No, 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 no. That's an actual that's called Dope Sick.
Okay.
That's on
I'm thinking of something else.
Netflix or Hulu or something.
Yeah.
But Dope Sick Nation was on Vice TV, and they had a couple seasons of it, and it was Allie and Frankie, and they basically did what you did. They were interventionists and got people into treatment, but the amount of people that would move to Florida, go through treatment, and then as soon as they get out and just completely like relapse was insane. And so because he was saying like, yeah, people come here to get clean and sober. He goes, and then they go through treatment, and then they walk out those doors, and the next thing you know, now they're homeless on the street in Florida.
Yeah, man. I mean that like, oh boy, I will get started here. Yeah, dude. Uh K Bono, I think is what the Romans or Greeks or whoever would say about like, okay, so wherein lies the benefit? Like if that, I'll take myself for an example, but if I am uh, a heroin riddled drug addict from East, if I'm a heroin riddled drug addict from East Baltimore and I get sent down to Florida for treatment, is there more profit in me getting clean, going through treatment one time, getting clean, staying clean, and living a happy, whole, useful, productive life? Or is there more profit in sending me through to detox, res, PHP, IOP, pimp the insurance out for month after month after month, give it a little break, and then to pump me back through the system again? So that there's a huge problem with profit incentives, and that I tell when I was a counselor, I would tell my patients this all the time,
Mm.
and that and of course I would get like the befuddled look of like, you're not supposed to be saying this, but like I don't give a fuck anymore, dude. I've been at this too long, and I've watched too many people die. But like, and it's
Mm.
obvious. It's obvious that like the machine, quote unquote, and I don't think there's like some evil villain somewhere twirling his mustache, but the incentive structure of the machine is for
Right.
guys like you and me to stay sick. We are dollar signs, and there is huge money in this, dude. Huge money. So yeah, of course, people come to South Florida, and they get sold the dream, and they get a brochure stuck in their hand, white sand beaches and palm trees, and then you get here, and it's like, there's some cots set up in a section of a strip mall, nowhere near a beach. And you go through and you go through, and they have a name for it. It's called the Florida Shuffle, and the treatment centers will send you, here, come down to this treatment center, get out, relapse, call the treatment center you went to back, and they'll send you to, another treatment center that they have an arrangement with, and that treatment center will send them people back, and everybody gets rich, and we die. And that's not a rag on South Florida.
Wow.
the treatment set anywhere that I've ever experienced, and which is a lot of places throughout the country, and it's not necessarily the fault of any particular treatment center, although there's some bad players out there. Um, but the incentive structures are just all jacked up. Because you can't rely on the
Yeah.
altruism of people as a group. I think, like, as individuals, you can kind of, for the most part, trust people to do the right thing. But when you get us in groups, dude, you have to look at what
Yeah.
is the profit motive here, and it's not for us to get better. It's just not.
I think the way they design, unfortunately, the way the system's designed is a million ways to lose. Because think about it. I mean, fuck it. We'll talk about it. MAT, great. Okay, if people need it to transition off, 100%. But it wasn't meant to be years and years and years. It was meant to be a short-term transitional medication. And the doctors, like, first it's methadone or Suboxone is the first thing for the doctors to push. You go there, you're getting off fentanyl, you're getting off heroin, whatever. Okay, cool. They want to put you on some of the highest milligrams possible to start. And listen, some people need it, but think about it. Next thing you know, 10 years goes by and people are still on it. And it wasn't designed to be that
Mhm.
way, but they're capitalizing off of it. And that's just the way it goes. So, like, even though, they're like, here, you're going to get off one drug, we're going to put you on a maintenance medication to, which is still, at the end of the day, regardless what anybody says, it's still a substance. Regardless, it may not be your substance of choice, but it's still a substance. We're going to put you on another one, and then we're just going to see you back, and you're just gonna keep coming back, and instead of the doctors being up front and telling, I'm not a disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not, but I just wanted to say that. But instead of the doctors, having an honest conversation with some of them, they're just like, instead of them being like, listen, this is a short term, 6 months to a year, you know, blah 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 blah. They just feed them the bullshit because they're gonna bill the insurance and come back. And Brianna, she said she had she was lucky to have a really good Suboxone doctor, to help her, to actually, like, help her get off and transition off. But then we have a mutual friend of ours who was just like, they were just like, fucking give me my money, I'll give you the script
Yeah,
and
man,
go.
absolutely. And that's, again, like, that's another systemic thing of, dude, the profit motive, number one, is obvious. Like, okay, now I've got a physical product that I can sell you, and that, I mean, that you're going to be physically fucking addicted to. You're no different than you just dotted the T's and crosses the I's, so the government doesn't bother you as much. But okay, now we've got a physical product that we're selling you, and then there's just a major hiccup that everybody knows about in Western medicine as a whole. And I am not a doctor either, despite my well put together demeanor. I'm just kidding. I'm a psychopath. There's a pill for everything, and that's even outside of addiction, that whenever there's something wrong, then the immediate go-to in our kind of paradigm of medicine is always there. There is a substance that can fix this, and it just becomes especially problematic when you're talking about addiction, because the substances are the tip of my iceberg as it is. And then I think I said this on the last one that we did, the last podcast we did together, and I've said this on my podcast a million times. But I'm just really skeptical when somebody tells me that the answer to my problem is another drug, because that I'm firmly rooted in the belief that um, the problem is definitely physical, and it's good that we have drugs that can address that. And I'm a proponent of Suboxone detoxes. Um, but the problem is also mental and spiritual. And any approach that doesn't address all three of those things proportionally is doomed to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that I'm
No,
not.
I,
But
I can
yeah,
see
and
that.
again, I'm like you. Like the MAT is always hot button in that. Like, I'll, you know, pump out videos every once in a while on MAT because it's controversial and people want to. Everybody wants to chime in on the subject, and it's hot button. And Ben Lerner blew up, but between his music and then doing the MAT videos, and that he's on whatever side he's on.
And he's 100%. Like he even says that he's 100% abstinent, but he supports all paths plus the MAT recovery, which again, that's some people. Some people are 100% abstinent, some are MAT, some are medical marijuana. It just depends.
Yeah, dude, it's good on its surface, but that and when you actually get into the front lines and to the nuts and bolts of it, and I helped write policy and procedure for state-funded MAT outpatient for the state of Tennessee. I adopted Hazelden's comprehensive opioid response with 12 steps, the core 12, to a state-sponsored model, and did I had 500-ish MAT patients at one point, over a couple years of my career. And it sounds good to say, support all paths to recovery, and this is keeping people alive. And the favorite line of the money grabbers is you can't treat a dead addict, as if there's some binary that you're either going to give them the MAT or they're going to keel over and die right there, or that somehow the MAT is going to keep them alive. Spoiler alert, it doesn't necessarily do that. So it sounds so good to say that, yeah, I support all pathways, but the truth is that you're cognitively handicapping someone when you're putting them on that medication. And I'm also saying that as somebody who was on a methadone maintenance protocol for however long, a year, I guess, when I was still using. The very quantifiable ramifications of these drugs is all but fucking ignored, in favor of what empty rhetoric about not being able to treat dead addicts and fucking dollar signs, dude. That, be ye not deceived, brethren. Fucking, it's the money. It's the money, motherfucker.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, a friend of ours, 9 years on subs. She spent 9 years, and then my best friend was on methadone for 6. And I think, trying to remember, I talked to somebody once. Their family member has been on methadone for like 30 years. She will have to be on it until the day that she dies. It wasn't fucking designed that way, to be that way. It was literally just a maintenance medication that was just to help transition from one, but it wasn't supposed to be that. But they just see dollar signs and cents, and then they're just like, fuck it. We're just going to keep throwing scripts at them.
Yeah. And it's easy.
And they know what they're doing too. They know what they're doing. But you have a former addict, or a recovering addict that's going to come into you, and they're going to, and you're telling, they're basically, the doctor's like, yeah, here, sure, I'm just going to give you this legal, this legal prescription that's going to, do this and that. Of course, we're addicts. We're going to fucking take it. And we're not going to sit there and be like, no, we can't do it. Sorry, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, oh God, on day one of detox, yeah, no, sorry, I'm abstinent. So, dude, I have this, that's not going to happen. I've had this idea for this sketch that I want to turn into like a reel or something at some point, of like the invention of MAT. And I just imagine in my mind, like, some numbskull therapist somewhere decides to ask an addict on day one, hey, we've tried so many different approaches with this over the years, and we never really stopped to ask you, what can we do to help you? And in my mind, the addict just kind of sits back and maybe like strokes their chin a little bit, and they're like, well, you could just give me drugs. And then the asshole does it. Yeah, wow, what a great idea, dude, because that's, like, all the pie in the sky conversation is so far removed from the physical reality of when you're dealing with street people. And those are my people, dude. I was homeless in East Baltimore for a significant portion of my adult life. Like, you're not dealing with people who are in a mind frame of coming in saying, I will do whatever it takes to get clean. You're not dealing with people who have the capacity to be honest in that moment. You're dealing with people who are under the boot of addiction and will do whatever it takes to put a substance in their body. And it's up to the people on the other side to lead them out of that.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of their profession. They're fucking doctors. They're supposed to help us. They're not supposed to contribute. But nowadays, what does a doctor do anyways? Just, oh, here you go, But it's sad because an addict is they when we're ready to get help, we're ready to get help. We know that. But if you walk up and just open your hand up and just be like, "Here, I'm gonna give this to you every single day for however long," like that's what it's gonna be. And instead of, again, I said it earlier, but instead of them being professional and them being like, "No, we're going to work on this taper program to get you down to X, to nothing." They don't do that shit. I mean, no, I'm not saying that. Forgive me, I'm not saying that everyone doesn't, because there is good doctors out there.
Yeah,
But
definitely there is good doctors.
there is good doctors, but for the most part, it's just the money. It's just a cash cow for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, a lot of good doctors are hampered by, corporate administrators, and doctors have bosses.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's exactly that. It's, here's the protocol, and not necessarily you must do this even though you don't believe in it, but hey, Dr. Blaine, if you want to come work at Acme Suboxone Clinic, tell me a little bit about your views on Suboxone first. So, like, if you want to even end up in the room to be a part of the conversation, you already have to be on board.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think that, and there's profit again, like just going back to like who benefits from that, because the answer is not the addict, despite what despite what people in that camp um, would like to perpetuate online. And this is not, and I don't want to speak in absolutes, but by and large, the way that this tool is being used is not helping people. When we're seeing people who are, on Suboxone and methadone for 20, 30, 40, like you were saying about the one person you knew they're going to be on methadone for the rest of your life. You're not going to tell me that a person is going to live up to their full potential while they're on 80 milligrams of methadone every day. You want to know why? Because you're drugged up. And you can make all the arguments you want about, well, they'd be dead otherwise, but it's a false binary. It's it's just something that, sorry, I'm getting things over here. It's a false binary. It's just something it's meant to set up this idea of, if if you want your son to live, then I need this amount of money.
Yeah.
And that pitch is always bullshit. And the treatment centers make that same pitch, and it's bullshit. And other interventionists make that pitch, and it's bullshit. And the same thing when the pharmaceutical companies do it. And how we as addicts are still trusting pharmaceutical companies after the track record at this point is just beyond me. And maybe we're not trusting them. Maybe we don't trust them any more than we trust any other dope dealer. They just happen to be the dope dealer.
Legal ones, yeah.
That's all.
Let me ask you this: when the Sacklers came up with Purdue and all that, and they were going around with their reps selling it to the doctors and stuff, do you? Because I've had this question asked before, and this kind of relates into that same topic. Do you think that they knew? Purdue knew 100%, but do you think that the doctors themselves, when they started prescribing the oxy to the patients, do you think that they knew what they were getting into? That the shit was going to be this fucking addicted epidemic, and they still did it for profit, or not?
Who knows, bro? Who knows? I mean, maybe I would. I'm just guessing here because I don't know any of the doctors who were
Yeah,
marketed to directly by Purdue. I would imagine there's probably a mixed bag there.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Naturally, yeah. There's gonna be some good and some bad.
yeah, there, and especially like toward the end. Well, and I mean, you can say for sure, you can quantify the bad. You know, the pill mills and the pain clinics. Like long
Yeah.
after we knew that this shit it's dope, is what it is, and it was being recklessly prescribed.
Yeah.
You know, in a way
All
that
for
was
a
very
kickback.
obviously for profit. Yeah, that toward the end, that was definitely happening. That's still happening. You know, I
Well,
know of a place right now local to me that is doing exactly that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. My mom went to a pill mill in Arizona. It was like you don't even see the fucking doctor. You go up, you pay your $80 or $90, and they slide over the script for you, and that's it. Um,
yeah,
but
dude,
it's just
I do jujitsu, and I went to a chiropractor, and he's like, I guess he got the wrong vibe, or maybe the right vibe, just the wrong time from me. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna write you a referral to this place over here, and I go, and it was like, oh shit, this is a pill mill.
yeah. But that's like, and that's the shitty part. That's like tying back in with the whole MAT doctors and all that. But the thing is that you know they prescribed, and the next thing you know, we have this fucking epidemic, and then now they're fucking afraid to prescribe anything now. But it was more of just like it was just like fuck the addict, fuck the patient. Like how can we capitalize the fact? And I don't mean to get like political or anything, but the fact that the Sackler family still can declare bankruptcy and do this and do that and not fucking be charged or not be touched from anything is just beyond fucking mind blowing. How
That's
I don't
the
get it.
that's the machine, brother. And that, like, you know, if you want to get it, I can explain it to you very simply, but it doesn't make it any easier to accept. And the truth is that George Carlin explained it perfectly in the 90s or early 2000s. And what he says is there's a big fucking club and you ain't in it. Uh, you know, Jared, like
Uh,
if you go out and you start slinging oxys, make no mistake, brother, you will go to jail. Do not collect
Absolutely.
$200 straight to jail.
Yep.
Um, but that there's enough money there, and um, there's enough social connection, which really, you know, is a product of the money, and kind of there's like a synergistic relationship between those two things, where exactly that's going to happen. It's going to get tied up in appeals, and we'll do bankruptcy, and ultimately, um, you know, nobody gets held accountable, and then you can see that across. And I always get mean comment, not mean, they're mean, but I always get myself in trouble on my podcast because I like can't help it venture into these topics, but like across all of American politics, Sacklers, not least of all, yeah, man, the people who are in never get held accountable for shit. You know, like that. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and just get a community note put on your podcast one time. Fucking, where's Jeffrey Epstein's client list, bro? You know, like that. We can't even get that. And you think they're gonna give us the Sacklers? Hell
Yeah.
no. There's a big
Yeah.
club, and you and me are not in it,
Yeah.
and the Sacklers are.
It's fucking sad, man. It really is. And from the ones that are in it, like, and I'm sure you see a hell of a lot more than I do, being with what you do and whatnot. But um, I just don't understand how this world got so fucked up along the way, and they just decided to just create this epidemic and all this poisoning and shit, and here we are, fucking, we're just left in it. I don't know. This is 30
Money, dude.
minutes in, and we're on some fucking wild
I
shit.
know. I've
It's
already got
cool
my
though.
tinfoil hat on.
It's cool, man, because like I told you before, sometimes these ones are like just the best ones because it's real shit.
Yeah.
But money, the world's driven by money.
Dude,
unfortunately.
unfortunately, and I again, like I think that that's like in the aggregate, we are driven by our selfish motives. In anything, and definitely in addiction treatment. Just to stay in the realm of what the world that you and I live in. Yeah, in the realm of addiction, we're in the aggregate, human beings as a whole are driven by selfish motives. You can experience altruism from an individual, but from people as a whole, man, like that, people are going to do whatever increases their own personal comfort, and that equates to dollars and cents usually. The same thing, MAT. That just show me one mistake that has gone on as long as MAT. Show me, one fuck up that continues on the same way that the shit show of addiction treatment we have as. Show me one mistake like that isn't getting somebody somewhere rich.
Yeah.
They're not out there. That's what I'm saying. Like that, you can't tell me that, or even I can't even blame just outright evil necessarily. Because
Yeah.
show me the one person who's back there, like, yeah, like this villain twirling his mustache, doing this just for the love of harming people and isn't making a dime off of that. That guy doesn't exist either.
Mm.
This is every fucked up system that we have in place is making millionaires out of somebody somewhere.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that's why, like, I'm so fucking, at least for me, so passionate about bringing more awareness and just doing what we do, such as yourself and stuff, because we we got to show people that there's fucking hope. There's hope out there. Like, this world isn't just, you don't just live, breathe, and die. Like, like, they just make something out of the world while you're here. Just
Yeah,
because we're
dude.
just because we're addicts doesn't mean that we can't, come back and make a comeback. That's the whole point of it, is being able to make a fucking comeback.
Dude, that's the same experience with me. That's the deal. I mean, and I had these suspicions when I was in treatment, and a lot of people who go through treatment do that. Like, hey, man, like, why does the this treatment center end in incorporated? Like, oh shit, like, is what role does money play in the care that I'm getting here? What about my insurance policy? So, like, I think that addicts are naturally skeptical and suspicious people, but dude, the way that I got out of the gears of that machine for, as long as I am out of it, and I'm a big believer in just for today, that, the fucking recovery industrial complex doesn't make a dime off of me. I was in treatment and I found some guy who worked there, not a big boss or anything, just some guy who worked there. And he's just hanging around smoking a Newport. And he was like, hey, kid, you want to know something they're not going to tell you in there? You're going to die if you don't find God. And I was like, what the, like, you're not supposed to fucking say that. Like, this isn't supposed to be nothing to do with religion. But, and this person has to walk me through, what does it mean when we say God in recovery, or,
Yeah.
what is it to find some kind of spirituality at least? And I know that God is a major turnoff to a lot of people. And it was to me the first time I heard it. But I found somebody who spoke my language, and the F word was every other word out of his mouth. But he was telling me, like, dude, you want to know a fact? You're a selfish asshole. And it's not because you do drugs, but actually you do drugs because you're a selfish asshole. You want to work on that or no?
Mm.
And I found that guy and found a few more guys like them and stuck with them. And that's where the hope was for me, dude. And to this day, I talk to those people, and is the only reason why I stay. I've talked to those people today, and that's the reason why I'm clean today. Because life didn't stop when I got clean. All of the bullshit that was going on when I was getting high, all of the just curveballs that life throws you, man. People die. Relationships sour, and family members will turn on you. All that stuff keeps happening.
Yeah.
I guess just the difference being that, like, I'm equipped to approach those things from a spiritual perspective with respectable people who have my back.
No, it makes sense. I mean, that's just the way the world works.
Do you believe in God?
I do. I do.
Do you have like a specific God, or are you kind of like
Uh,
spiritual in general?
yeah. I mean, I was raised in the church, to an extent. But I went. My grandparents took me, from the time I was 5 years old, and that's kind of what I grew up with. But the older I got, though, the more I didn't like walk away. But the more I realized like how fucked up religion is, and as far as and that's the way I look at it is there's religion and then there's a relationship, and like I have my own relationship with God. That's mine. But um that that's just what I believe, and but I don't believe in like one specific. I just know that there's somebody out there higher than myself that and that's just me personally. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, that was what, like I was saying, like this, I found somebody who I could trust, who I believed used drugs the way that I use drugs, and spoke to me in a way that I could hear them. And that was what they told me: you're going to die if you don't find God. And despite how frustrated I was and how often I would say and feel suicidal, I didn't really want to die. She said, "You're going to die if you don't find God." So from that point on, I was a lot like you, like where I was, you know, born and raised in the church, and then kind of turned my back on that. Like I saw inconsistencies
Yeah.
in between Christ and the people who claim to follow Christ, and that was the obviously there's the kind of church that I was brought up in. And I turned my back on that, and then the conversation that this guy's trying to have to be about God is refreshing all of the evil that I saw human beings do, and that I blamed on God. And then and then I was like, well, I'm not going back to the God that I turned my back on, because all the reasons I turned my back on that God are all still 100% valid. I'm not
Yeah.
going to just lie and say I believe in something I don't to save my skin. But it
Yeah.
really was coming to a conception of God that worked with me. And then I don't know, man. Here in like the last 6 weeks, I started going to church again. So I don't, you know,
Uh,
that's been a weird. I'm on this constant spiritual
yeah.
journey. I mean, I've been down a bunch of roads, dude. Buddhism is big in recovery, and the Dharma punks and all
Yeah.
those guys, and a lot of like Eastern style meditations. I like, you know, played on the periphery of like Satanism and stuff for a while, and one of I'm in a men's improvement group, centered around um, addiction recovery. And one of the guys on there was just like, he could tell that like I was uncomfortable by the notion of church, and this is like the kind of group where they will push you to do things that are uncomfortable in the spirit of growth. He was like, "Yo, you should go to church one time," and I was like, "That sucks, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I won't." And I did, and I liked it. So I don't know. I've been on kind of like this, kind of like a little
I mean,
Jesus for a minute.
and that's good, man. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's times I get a yearning to, want to go to church or something. But like, this is what I'll tell you. This is kind of what started throwing me off was, I got married at 18 years old. I had my first kid, 18 years old. I only got married because she was 16 and pregnant. And her mom was like super super religious and was just like the only way that you guys are moving in together is if you guys get married. So my first kid, I'm like, fuck it, we did it. So we did. We grew up. We had 3 kids along the way, but I wanted to be a youth pastor, believe it or not. I really wanted to be a youth pastor. And I actually started going to school for it, and everything. And then I remember I applied for this youth pastor job at a church, and it was one of those Southern Baptist old school, and mind you, me and my ex, we're covered in tattoos and whatnot, and of course we got pregnant out of wedlock and blah 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 blah. And I applied for this position. They literally denied me because I was covered in tattoos and I got married out of wedlock, or I had a child out of wedlock. And that right there is what turned me away from religion, because I was just like, really? Like, really? And then it was just shit like that constantly. I always got shit on because of my tattoos, or this or that, and it was just like, and so the older I got, the more that I started seeing controversial things and whatnot, and um, of course, you have pastors using freaking donations for rims and this, that, and the third. And again, it's the same. Not all of them are bad, but it's just the way it goes. But that's really what kind of started turning me off on religion. So where I just stopped going to church, and I was like, you know what, my walk with God's my walk with God, but I don't need to go to a building on Sundays to be able to, um, and that's the way that I look at it.
Dude, I'm 100% with it. I relate to that deeply. Dude, my kind of catalyst event was when I was in 11th grade. I went to school that was attached to the church, so it was like a Christian school, and I started sleeping with my teacher, and she was 30 something. I was like 16 or 17, and she was like married and had kids, and that there was a lot to for a 16-year-old to try to make sense of like, okay, here's everything I've been taught about God and marriage, and okay, and here's this lady, and I'm 16 years old. I mean, what 16-year-old says no to any woman, let alone an attractive older lady?
Right.
So I'm like in this position where like there's like no isn't really on the table. From there, and then the church didn't want to acknowledge that anything like that happened, and and then kind of same thing of like what you were saying, like, okay, there's donation money, or like I see like here's a lot of poor people that come to this church, but why does the pastor of the church like have a standard of living that's so much higher than my family's or any of the other families who come to this church? That kind of called into question a lot of things for me. And, now, like, as I'm going back, what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing like when you were saying tattoos and stuff, I'm covered in tattoos too. And, I can't, are you trying to point to that for me?
No.
Okay.
I was trying to fix something.
Okay. No, what I'm seeing now in church is like I'm seeing like heavily tattooed ushers, and a church that's kind of more, which really like tattoos have kind of at this point, most people don't care. I mean, you got to be like a real old school kind of situation to care about tattoos at this point, because everybody's got them. When I was growing up, it was still like kind of it was a little more edgy. Now it's very commonplace.
Oh yeah.
But I think again, like back to like the profit motive thing is like churches, I think in a lot of ways have wised up, and maybe wised up a little too much, in the sense that like, okay, are you really going to turn away a tithing member of this church because they have tattoos, or what? Like, where is that? Where is that line? Or like, are you really going to turn away a tithing member of the church because he's gay, or any of the stuff that you used to, where people would be kind of not very welcome in a church. And almost to a point where it's like you don't have to share any culture or share any beliefs with us. You can kind of show up here whenever, and I don't. Again, like I've been like back to church for like 5 or 6 weeks, and I don't know that I want to continue to do it indefinitely. I know that my kids have enjoyed it, I've enjoyed it, but
it might just be a little period of refreshment for you.
Dude, there's a lot of questions like that in there. You know, like what does it mean to be a church? You know,
Yeah.
who is it all inclusive? Can everybody come to a church, or are there like some foundational things that we must share in order to
Mm.
share faith? Or there's a lot of really interesting stuff there that I want to hear more about from the people who are more regular in church.
But if you think about it, a church isn't just a building.
Yeah,
We're two or more gather, like this right here. That's considered a church.
yeah, hell yeah. That yeah, man. And the church was, um, if I'm remembering this right, the church is the body of Christ. Yeah,
Yep, the body.
and that could be, that's open to a lot of interpretation, man. Could be
Yeah.
anything. So I don't know. Again, there's so much there, and it's like it's been so interesting to me here recently, because there is like something about, and this ties really heavily into addiction. And I did a deep dive on this on an episode of my podcast of like, I think there's like a cultural degradation in America specifically that has led us deeper and darker down this road of, right now the incarnation is the opiate epidemic. We had crack before that, and we could go all the way back to Benjamin Rush and before America was even a thing, when we were just colonies of Britain, and we've always had addiction issues. But I think the reason that it's taken off the way it has is that we don't have like any kind of cultural cohesion or shared identity, or like anything that binds us to a community as a whole. I think that's why like 12-step programs have had a lot of success in helping people get clean. I think that the church has even seen some limited success helping people get clean, and I think that a lot of that ties to like having shared morals and shared culture with not just a small handful of people, but with a community at large. I think that that's good for our spirits as human beings, and that addiction again, be a significant part of that being spiritual.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I I remember there was this saying that religion was for people that were too scared to go to hell. And if you think about, but then this the flip side. This is the other part for me, like that I know that there's something else out there, is because I'm fucking sitting here right now. You're sitting here right now after all the shit that we, and the fact that still able to sit here and share my story. You're able to sit here and share yours. You know, um, I just look at all kinds of shit, creation, nature, the trees, the way a fucking baby is born into the womb, like all these things, and I'm like, dude, there's definitely something greater than myself out there. Like, I personally don't think there was just a fucking boom and we came from monkeys or some shit.
Yeah.
But so it's so hard. It really is so hard to figure out, like, what happens next. What happens when you die? Like, and it's funny because as being someone who's sober, I'll tell you this, I'm terrified of death. I will tell you, I will put myself into a fucking panic attack, thinking about not ever existing. But when we were using, shit, 50-50 shot that you're gonna snort that line of fentanyl and you're gonna live or die, and you don't care, you're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think about that now. Like, and I've worked in the funeral industry for some years, especially through COVID. I was the medical examiners and whatnot, and so I've been around a lot of death, and so dude, I look at things all the time, and I'm like, what's the worst way I can die? Like you were saying, your number is called when your number is called. I can't even go to a fucking carnival or a freaking fair and enjoy a ride because I'm like sitting there like, yo, this thing's gonna break any moment.
Yeah, dude, I went through. Yeah, I mean, kind of same thing. Like after getting clean, being confronted with mortality, and just like, for me, it's always more of like what are, like, my kids are a big one. Like, if something happens to me, like, oh shit, it's not just me anymore. Like, people
Yeah.
are fucking counting on me, and it's not as much like the fear of death, but like the fear of like being actually responsible. Um, like fatherhood snuck up on me, brother.
Yeah.
And, it sounds kind of like you too.
Yeah.
Um, fatherhood snuck up on me, and that was like you think you're ready, you know,
No, I
at
know.
least that, I had kids when I was, or my first kid when I was maybe 2 years clean. And it was like, I thought that like I had come to a place of like, I had an understanding of responsibility and accountability and commitment and integrity and all of those things. And if I've learned anything through the course of the last 4 or 5 years since I've had kids, it's that I have barely scratched the surface of any of those things.
Yeah.
Those things are so foreign that they scare me, and that like I've had like full blown panic attacks, which is very out of my nature. I'm not an anxious person, but just full blown anxiety attacks of, geez, if something happens to me, um, God, what would everybody do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah. Fatherhood definitely snuck up. I was 18 when she got pregnant. She was 16 then, and then of course, I had turned 19, and then we had our first. And of course, my oldest is 13. My middle's 11, and then my daughter's 8. And it's crazy because like I grew up without my dad, and I was like, fuck, like I was terrified to be a father. And even now, like having my kids, like, man, my biggest fear is like turning into my father, and my kids hating me and this, that, and the third. And life's been crazy, man. I got divorced and I moved across the United States, and it is really crazy. My kids live in Oregon, I live in New York, and um like I did, man, it's just dealing with that, like that in itself is fucking just wild. And I don't even know where the fuck I'm going with this. I'm just going based on what we were on. But um yeah, that more but that's where it goes, like where I'm afraid, like if I die, like, my kids, like I want them to know that I fucking love them, that I love the shit out of them, and like they're worth something. They can, I don't know. Like I have a hard time thinking about that.
Yeah, dude, me too. And that's I think that just ties into like addiction. Somebody put it to me a certain way one time, and the gist of it was that we are spiritually stunted, um, as addicts, and that there are certain concepts that innately mature within a healthy, functional human being. Stuff like what I was just talking about with commitment, and responsibility, and integrity, all the makings of a good father, and that stuff that my father never had, and that I share the same fear as you. As I don't want to become
Yeah.
my dad too, um, and that as addicts, whatever it is that causes that to mature and flourish within people, it's like we just don't have it. And at least that was definitely and continues to be the case with me. I mean that I am not, um, in and of myself on my own power. I am not mentally or spiritually equipped to function around other human beings at all, let alone little people who I created who are depending on
Yeah.
me for everything.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's crazy the way that life works, because like my kids kind of, they saw me through my addiction, and it wasn't even they weren't enough for me to stop. And of course now it's a whole fucking, they're everything. But um it just goes the same thing, like I wasn't afraid to die when I was using, but it's like once you gain that clarity and whatnot, um, then it's like everything that you didn't care about. Like now you're like, well, shit, this is real. People are dying there. I mean, before we hit record, you found out that you had somebody you knew that passed, and I was a friend of mine who was supposed to be a guest on the show. He ended up passing, and like you said, when your number's called, your number's called. But it's crazy to think that, and then now you're sober minded, and you're just like, holy shit, like I was really playing with death. Like I was really, it's
Yeah.
a 50-50 shot. 50%. You're either gonna live or you're gonna die.
And nowadays, man, with the stuff that's out there now, I mean,
Dude,
it's
it's like
better scary.
99%.
Yeah, man.
It's
That
scary.
fentanyl was hitting right as I got clean. And it was like, I remember playing around with that stuff, dude. And like the line between, okay, I'm good and high, and I am in the back of an ambulance is like that thin.
All it takes is
And
one time right now.
huh?
All it takes is one time right now. One
Oh yeah,
fucking one shot.
yeah, man. I lost a really close friend in I guess it would have been 2021, and it startled me because he was a close friend. He would come over and would watch UFC on Saturdays, and he's like one of my boys. Like you have your boys, and I can remember a time where like you could tell when one of your people started to act weird. Like you could like circle the wagons, and like there was time to put together a plan and get somebody back into
Yeah.
detox and back on the saddle. And when his name was Danny R. And when Danny died, it was like, dude, forget about it. Forget about like whatever plan you may have been able to come up with to try to help. Like that shit is out the window with the kind of drugs
Yep.
that are out there now. Um, like there's very little time between, if any time, for us, in my friend group, nobody knew that he was using. And the next thing we know, he was just gone. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one
Yeah.
time can be it now, and that's heroin has always been a deadly drug, and so has all of it. Heroin specifically, but it's always been deadly. But now, man, I mean, it's as dark as it's ever been, Jared. It is as dark as it's ever been out
And
there.
it's in every fucking thing, not just heroin anymore. It's everything. Xanax, freaking meth, everything.
Some of the local news stations back in Nashville, I got connected with them, and they like to bring me on to like rile up the old people and get everybody good and scared sometimes, because that I would say exactly what you just said, that like unless a pharmacist from Walgreens puts something in your hands directly, then
Yep.
just count on there being fentanyl in it. Just count on it, because that methamphetamine was the last holdout. That was the last thing we had that for sure did not have, or you could at least be reasonable sure it didn't have fentanyl in it. And then I remember when the DEA seized packages up in Kentucky of methamphetamine with fentanyl in it. That was in 2021. And that way, methamphetamine, coke has had fentanyl in it. Heroin has had fentanyl in it. Xanax has been, it's just fentanyl pressed into the shape of Xanax for a long time.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, man, everything is fentanyl now. It's
I think they said it's either 8, is it 8 or 9 out of 10 pills is fentanyl.
I mean, it's, who knows? Who knows?
I think it was 8. I think it's 8 out of 10 pills on the market are fentanyl. And again, and it's not even part fentanyl. It's fucking pressed, like you said. It's completely pressed.
Yeah.
And that's why, like we were talking beforehand, it doesn't matter how long you've got clean. It doesn't matter if you got a day or if you've got a year, if you got 20 years. One fucking shot and it could be over in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't think that. You get these guys, they get sober, they get clean, and they're like, you know what, here, let me go snort this pill real quick. They're done.
Yeah, man. It's, you know, it, oh, I Facebook about it, but like I'll get, I'll come out here and sit right where I'm sitting right now, and dude, I'll just think about it sometimes, like as an addict in recovery, as someone who loves addicts, and I mean that I have the people who I care about most in the world are all addicts, and as a professional too, like, um, I guess if I'm being candid, and I don't, I'm never going to come on anywhere and try to pretend I'm somebody who I'm not, but like sometimes I almost feel like I'm in this role where I'm supposed to be the bringer of hope and um, sometimes I feel maybe too much like people uh, are looking to me for, some kind of answers or something. And then families do come to me looking for answers. And, the truth is I have some answers, but you might not like them, man. The way that things have progressed, it can be so hopeless sometimes. And some of the stories that I encounter, and the situations that families come to me in, um, a lot of people who do what I do will, they'll come in and say, yeah, there's a solution, and just go and slide me a cool $10,000, and I'll get you all taken care of. And a lot of sometimes I'm in the role of saying, like, dude, we can, like, here's what we can try, but full disclosure, in accordance with my ethical code, is the prognosis is grim here. Okay, like that, you've got a 21-year-old female living in a park, prostituting, has been approached multiple times about going to treatment, has said no, is financially independent as a result of, gaining money from the streets and stuff like that. Um, there's some conversations to be had there for sure, and people like that do get clean, and it's not completely hopeless. And I've helped people like that, but just statistically, man, that's so ugly. And there's countless others I can, I'm thinking of a specific patient right now, and I can think of others where it's like, man, the prognosis here, like if I was a doctor, and or like if I was a mathematician, or I'd like break things down into percentages, like it's so scary out there right now, man. It's so scary.
Especially in your profession, being in your profession, what you see every day, with intervention and different things. So
Yeah, which excuse me, and I always try to keep in mind that, like, people call me when it is as bad as it ever is. Like, nobody ever calls me when there's a small problem. People call me, like, break glass in case of emergency. Um, so I know that it may not be as bad as every case that I encounter.
right.
Um, but also, like, dude, the thing that I have to come back to is I have to come back to that counselor with the Newport hanging out of his
Yeah.
lip. The first guy who I ever met, and just remember, like, dude, there are people out there, and if I can just, like, jump in their hip pocket, that's what they used to say to me. Just find somebody like that, jump in their hip pocket, and don't let go, and then be that guy for somebody else. And I mean, that's how. And regardless of that, if you're a 12-step guy, if you're, um, a youth pastor, or just somebody who gives a shit about addicts, whatever the path might be, that, like, that's what all of this has in common, is that somebody helps you out, and then you do whatever you can to help out the next guy. And somehow, human beings have made it this far like that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, man, we're definitely gonna have to do we're gonna have to do another episode where we actually dive into your story, because this is cool. Like, I enjoyed it, but man, we didn't even hit anything. But it's
Yeah.
all good. Like I said, sometimes these episodes are the best ones. It's just bugging. Before we wrap up, why don't you let everybody know, tell us a little bit about Rosecrest, and kind of what you guys do there and whatnot.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. So my wife and I founded Rosecrest in 2021. Um, we do interventions, family case management, recovery companionship, and transportation. Basically, all that is just a way to say that we do problem solving around addiction. Um, we help people get clean mostly by getting them to treatment, and by helping families learn about uh, their own internal structures, and how addiction is a family disease, and how um, codependency is a inseparable part of addiction, and how addiction doesn't survive in a vacuum. So we do a lot of work with families like that. I do interventions. That's um, you know my specific calling, day to day. So denial, as we know, is that's baked into the cake with addiction. So what I do is I come in and work with families, and I teach them how to interact with their loved one who's addicted in order to generate a meaningful conversation about going to treatment. Um, and I'm pretty damn good at it. Most of the people who I take a swing at end up going to treatment. Um, and again, and that's where my approach kind of differs, is that like I'm fully accepting of the fact that like I don't have magic words for anybody. I don't have the key to get somebody who doesn't want to go to treatment, but I understand the disease, and I understand families, and the way that I get that done is I educate families and I coach them up so that
Yeah.
they can be their own hero. So that's Rosecrest in a nutshell.
And I mean, obviously, anybody can reach out to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Dude, absolutely. Anybody, anytime. My cell phone never stops ringing. It's plastered all over the internet. It's 615-484-8792. Um, People call all the time with a myriad of different problems, and I welcome it. No matter what's going on, I'm really well integrated with the different resources all over the country. And if I'm not, if I can't help you, then I know somebody who can. And that's what I do day in and day out, man. Just take the phone calls and help people out however we can.
No, that's awesome, man. We need it, definitely. The world needs it. So yeah, it's pretty cool that and that you're authentic about it. That you're not, like you're willing to fucking go in it and then speak the truth and not just some cash cow. And we need that. We need people that are actually here to help people for the right reasons.
You said it, man. Speak the truth. You want to know something else about me? I'm a damn good carpenter, and I will go back to framing houses the day that all the addicts are helped and they do not need me anymore. I'm not scared of not being able to make money doing this thing. I'm here
Yeah.
because I love it, and I look forward to the day where I can, pop in my headphones and listen to like old Norma Jean records and frame houses.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the podcast?
Oh, dude, podcast. So Rosecrest is the company. The podcast is the RoseCast. That's on Spotify and on the website. I'm not on anything other than Spotify, but it's www.rosecrestrecoveryservices.com/the RoseCast. Or you just go to rosecrestrecoveryservices.com, and it's real easy to navigate from there. Or Spotify, the RoseCast, and that's general discussion through the lens of recovery is kind of how I market it. So I have like, a lot of different recovery oriented guests, people who own treatment centers, people who have been in the treatment space for a long time. And then I had a UFC fighter on, Jared Gordon, who just won his fight a few weeks ago. Congrats, Jared.
Nice.
Jared came on, and Paul Hunter of Paul Hunter Jiu-Jitsu, him and Wrigley the Bulldog have a really, really popular channel about jiu-jitsu, and came and brought Paul on and talked about that.
Is Jared in recovery?
Yeah, Jared's in recovery, and
I'm gonna have to
he's
link
got
with you and see if I can talk with him.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely. He probably will be down for it. I don't know,
Yeah.
but definitely, yeah, he's in recovery. He's got. You should listen to the episode. He's got a really cool backstory of recovery and getting into fighting, and how he like reconciles the like just emotionally charged nature of his profession with um, being a guy in recovery.
Yep. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, hopefully one day, I'll be able to share my story on the Rosecast and definitely.
Dude, I would love to bring you on. I've got to figure out, maybe you can help me with like some of the technical stuff
Yeah.
because I'm like everything I do is in person
Oh yeah, yeah.
here in Florida.
Eh,
Like I want to figure out how like this setup you have going on
Oh
is.
yeah, we could. It like in person is ideal. That's like the best way to do it.
Yeah,
But naturally, in a perfect world, that's not the way it works. So this
yeah,
is just it makes it, but yeah, man, we could definitely talk about that, and if not, then maybe this would be a reason to go to Florida.
yeah, dude, absolutely. If you do find yourself down for vacation or whatever, then you are 1,000% welcome over here. I will grill us up some steaks.
Definitely.
Uh, we can light up cigars if that's your thing and crank out a podcast
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
My girlfriend, her best friend lives in Tampa, and then of course, all my I got friends and different things that are all down in Florida, so I love Florida. Try to. I went there earlier in the summer just for the night on a layover, but I definitely want to go on vacation this summer. But yeah, yeah, we'll definitely
Yeah, dude,
talk about helping you with some of the technical aspects of it.
sure.
But man, it's cool. Like we've been hour and 20 minutes, and we didn't even it just the conversation. It was just authentic and genuine, and that's what I love about this is that we never really know which way this conversation is going to go, and and that's why we do it, because then we just start talking about shit that like we never intended to do.
Yeah. Dude, I love the format that we had tonight. I would have I met
Yeah.
Brianna on the Black Ash Radio. I didn't meet your other co-host, but dude, I loved tonight. I think it happened exactly the way it was supposed to. I loved that it was just
True.
me and you. I I feel a little
Yeah.
kindred spirit with you, kind of. I think we shared a lot of
Yeah.
experiences, and it's kind of like a little
I
therapy session, man, for the
I
whole world to
agree. I
watch.
agree. Nah, that's cool. It's definitely like that's the way that I look at these things. Like this is a meeting for me. This is whether it's the therapy, whether it's an AA, whatever. But this is a meeting for myself. And so, as much as we do these to help others, it helps us in the long run, personally.
Yeah, yeah, dude, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I normally I tell you to let everybody know where to find you, but you already plugged that in earlier. And we'll put all the links in the description and whatnot. And everybody um, go follow Rich. Go give him some love, give him support. Go listen to the podcast. And at the end of the day, um, just thank you for coming on, man. Thanks for sharing, an hour and a half of your time with us. And with that being said, that wraps up another episode. We hope that today's conversation left you feeling inspired and uplifted. And remember, each one of us has the power to spread hope and positivity in our own unique way. Also, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please do us a couple favors. Make sure you like or follow us on your favorite platform. Uh, leave a comment, leave a share. Any interaction helps the algorithm, and it helps us just reach other people who may need to hear this type of hope and inspiration. And remember, no matter what life throws your way, there's always a reason to hold on to hope. Always a reason to hold on to hope. And until next time, we love you. Signing off.